Welcome to our podcast, The Words That Make Us.
Consider this time with us as your excuse to take a break from everything.
Every episode, we choose a word that makes us think, wonder, or dream. We read a range of texts that explore different aspects of this word.
And we let our thoughts wander. We hope that yours will too. So grab your favourite tea.
Or a beer.
And join me, Rama Shah.
And me, Tony Bailey. Let's go!
So today's episode is about light. So Tony, you're looking so brown.
Yeah, I've been sunning myself in the beautiful sunshine of Malaga in Spain.
Nice, we talked about that.
Beautiful crystal, well, I would like to say crystal clear water, but it wasn't that clean.
No.
But we had a swimming pool, I think I told you about that.
That was crystal clear.
The beautiful, bright sunlight, twinkling on the water, lying back, taking in the sun. It was perfect.
Very nice.
I can see why animals, when it's some sunshine, we've got little gerbils, right? Mm-hmm. You know that.
Yeah.
And in the cage, when the sun comes in through the window, they all cluster together in the sunshine.
Okay.
In this lovely little cuddle bundle thing.
Yeah.
Because they're all attracted
they want to be
the light. It's really interesting.
It's very interesting. It's like my cat. Also, my cat suns himself in the...
He's attracted to gerbils. I'm sure he is, yeah. Probably want to eat them.
To the sun. Yeah. Which is really interesting because, first of all, this is, I think, the only occasion where you will be more brown than I am. So enjoy it while it lasts.
This is a bit of a cultural transformation.
It's a plot twist.
Let me tell you about having a darker skin than you. Yeah, you're looking a bit pale. You've been sitting in a darkened room like a mushroom?
Not really, but I mean, you know my hat. You've made a few comments about my hat.
That'll
do it.
That if you had that hat and grass was growing under your feet, you'd have a circle where there was no grass growing because it's so shady. Yeah,
I am not a fan of the sun.
Yeah, that's bizarre, isn't it? Because I would have thought culturally sunshine would be much... I mean, I'm English.
Yeah.
Any sun is a bonus.
You crave it. You're like a sunflower. You just
Absolutely.
Gravitate towards it.
People in my town laugh at me because even when it's pretty cold, I will walk around the town in my shorts because it's not raining.
It's not raining.
Got to get some light to the legs. And they're walking around in their Jack Wolfskins and their bobble hats, and I'm walking around in my shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, no. So not me. That's why I don't get enough vitamin D, and I have to take it in pill form.
Is that a sensitivity of your skin to the light, or just?
I do have a skin thing. I don't know if you can see it, like the side of my face, a skin thing where it's very sensitive to the light, and I get hyperpigmentation. So I never liked the sun. I always avoided the sun. I always walked on the shady side of the road, and then I got this thing, and it was like, oh, you have to have sunscreen all the time. You have to have a hat all the time. I'm like, yep, make me hate the sun even more. Why don't you? So if you see me outside on duty, for example, you'll always find me under a tree.
Or a big sun umbrella thing. Or
that's a bit too much, but...
It could be a project for a student to hold a large sun umbrella over your head while you're on duty.
Yeah, exactly. And 2 people fanning me as well.
That would be good.
Yes. Yeah. A cast project thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today's subject is light.
Yeah.
And we focused, interesting there, because we focused on the sun.
Yeah.
And sunlight as being our major...
It is the major source of light, isn't it? Yeah.
I guess it is, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was a child, actually, I've always had this kind of olive skin, even though I'm very English and I come from Manchester. And I don't really, as far as I'm aware,
have any
ancestry that isn't from that sort of white European background. But I remember being asked quite a lot of times when I was a child whether, sometimes...
Did anybody say to you, go home, go where you came from?
Not far off. I remember, I'm not sure whether I can say this on the podcast. Hopefully nobody would take offence, but I remember when I was coming out of... I was on the bus home from watching Man United play. Mm-hmm. and I was just wearing a T-shirt, and these not particularly nice Manchester City supporters came up to me, and they were going to beat me up because are you a Baki?
Really? What?
That was as was the parlance in those days when people were being racist, but they thought that I was.
You were a foreigner.
I was a foreigner from Pakistan because my skin was dark.
That's insane.
Bizarre.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
There we go.
So
anyway, so yes, if you had to then pin your, your preferences or whatever. So are you a light person, or do you prefer shade or darkness? Because there's kind of a spectrum, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you sit there?
So what I love is a sunny room. I do love a light, bright, sunny room with big windows. That's like my favorite kind of place to live in. And unfortunately, in my house right now, the bathroom doesn't have natural light, which I also wish I had.
It's a very German thing, isn't it?
It is, and I'm
not to have lights.
And so that's something I really miss. So I do enjoy the light. I just don't want to be in direct sunlight. It makes me really irritable. If you want to see me upset, put me in the sun. Sports day, for example, when I have to stand in the sun.
Yeah, indeed.
That's not my happy day.
I love it.
No,
I love it.
But I do love the light, and also I'm not a nocturnal person. I do go to bed quite early, and I wake up really early as well.
Yeah.
But which is ironic because I do love the moon more than I like the sun.
Yeah.
And this is a very Arabic thing as well. I can tell you about it later.
Why is that the case? I don't have a relationship with the moon at all, I wouldn't say.
Oh my God, the moon is everywhere in Arabic culture, everywhere, in songs. And if you say to someone, you're so beautiful, you're beautiful like the moon, you're the moon in my life.
You are the sunshine
I
in
know.
my life.
I know. It's really, really interesting because I noticed that when I started talking to Europeans, and I was like, the sun is the best source of light, whereas in Syria, or I think in the rest of the Middle East, it's the moon. I think because
how does that affect in what way then? So there are so many different references to the sun and sunshine that I think of far outweighing references to the moon in my sort of cultural
I know. I have not
context.
Yet seen lots of things about moonlight, but lots of things about sunlight. No, the moonlight, I think it might be because the Middle East, we have too much sun. It might be that the sun is harsh, So
maybe light during nighttime is also related to the temperature, and it's a light that is in some way refreshing.
Exactly. It's when you come out, how they have siesta, and you don't come out until later in the day because it's super hot. So at night, if it's a full moon, you have to make a wish, and your wish might come true. Yeah. Which I think comes from paganism, but anyway, you have to make a prayer basically. And also, I think it also, if you look at the Middle East, not in Syria, but in countries like Saudi Arabia and stuff, the calendar is a moon calendar. It's a lunar calendar.
Yeah, and so it was originally, wasn't it? Until the Romans
and actually, the word month
it.
comes from moon. It used to be, a few moons, which would be a few months. But then that changed, and it became a group.
Monday.
Oh yeah, maybe that has to do with moon.
The French
I'm not
is
sure.
lundi, isn't it?
Lundi,
So it must be lunar. It must be.
It must be to do with the month.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So the year is a bit shorter in Saudi Arabia, for example. The way they can tell that Ramadan has started or Ramadan has ended is by the moon. Is it a full moon, or is it still missing a day or something? Because a full moon takes 14 to 15 days. Yeah. You're not 100% sure. It depends, you have to have astronomers that look. And that's why it's a bit shorter than...
So I suppose, before we had clocks, watches, etc., the moon and the light of the moon must have had a much greater impact on people's lives, because people were living their life,
without
based
electricity.
On when does the sun set? When is there a full moon? That sort of lunar calendar. So actually, both the sun and the moon would have had a major impact on your concept of time, your concept of what
navigation.
Time of year, navigation.
It's really important in the Middle East as well.
The moon and the sun.
Exactly, because you really can't travel in the desert if you don't have the moon guiding you, and also you can't travel in the middle of the day because it's too hot. Yeah. So navigation was really a big thing. The calendar, and also it's very romantic. So the moon is all about romance, love and lovers and beauty.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because the moon is I don't think of the moon as being an aggressive thing.
No.
Moonlight in whatever form it is very gentle and calm. And you associate it with the quiet of night as well. So it's got that sort of pacifying effect.
Yeah.
Whereas the sun, you can attach a lot more emotions to it. Because you can have a very weak, pale sun struggling in the winter to try and give warmth against the really aggressive sun that is too bright. So it's got
can burn crops, can burn your skin. And so I think maybe that's the difference, is that the moon, whenever it's there, it's always welcome.
Yeah.
Whereas...
I think that's true. Yeah. I've never thought about that before, but I've never had the moon at night and think, oh, God, I wish that moon would go in.
Exactly. It's like, come on, too much light. Never. Yeah. It's just a full moon or a blood moon. It's something amazing to watch.
It's very comforting to see as well. Yeah. And also... helps you put yourself in the context of the wider universe. You're there, it's dark, and it's just the moon, and you really do feel small. Especially, exactly, at night when it's quiet and it's just you and the moon and you and the stars. You do have that sense of, being... So, could you live a life where you didn't have sunlight? So those parts of the world where, in the winter, for example, it's dark almost 24 hours a day. Or people who work in a job where they are at work at night and sleep during the day, so they're basically nocturnal. So
I am definitely not nocturnal, but I really don't miss the sun. Like when there are days on end without sun and people are starting to get, irritable, I'm like, it doesn't bother me. I bring my own sunshine with me.
Of course, and you surround yourself with rays of sunshine.
Exactly, like you, exactly.
Like me. I think of myself more as a dark shadow in your life.
That's not true.
Yeah. Interesting though. It's sort of like living in Germany. The Germans just have this predilection they want the sun.
Oh my God.
And they will go on holiday just to lie in the sunshine.
No, I'm not there yet. Maybe in a few years, if I continue living here, then I'll start missing it.
Yeah.
So far, not. I'm not sure if I could live in Sweden, for example, when it's like night for 6 months or a few months. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
But
I definitely... what's that syndrome that people get when they don't have enough sunlight? Because I have felt that a little bit in Germany. What do they call it? Seasonal Affective Disorder. SAD.
How apt.
Yeah, Seasonal Affective Disorder. Sunlight helps boost a chemical in your brain called serotonin, and that can give you more energy, helps to keep you calm, positive and focused. Doctors sometimes treat seasonal affective disorder and other types of depression linked to low levels of serotonin with natural or artificial light.
Yeah.
So
there are these lamps.
Sit yourself under a lamp. Yeah. Or take more vitamin D, as you said, vitamin D deficiency. One of the most well-known consequences of not getting enough sunlight. It's been linked to a greater likelihood of having a heart attack or a stroke or developing deadly cancers.
Yeah, or depression even.
Right, get out there in the sun. Additionally, vitamin D deficiencies can also cause, ready for it, weak bones.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes, of course it is. Of course. I do get sun, but I also take a lot of vitamin D. Like if I told you how much, people would be really worried that I'm getting into the toxicity. But I do take a lot. But I was going to read to you this poem about the moon, actually, that I found interesting. Which it's really funny because I didn't look at anything from the sun or the stars. I just went to the moon, which is really good.
I'm sure you found it interesting because I did not look at the moon at all.
It's really interesting.
I'm looking at the difference between day and night, I suppose, light and dark.
Yeah.
But for me, lightness is daytime.
Day. Yeah. But isn't it interesting that even in the darkest times, there's light?
In every culture.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
In every religion as well, I'm sure.
Of course, there's always...
explore that.
Yeah. And also the interesting thing about the moon is that it's just like, it's a lightless thing. It's just a rock that reflects the light. But still, I find it
still
better than the origin.
Still getting credit, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so read the poem. Let's do it.
So this poem is called Silver by Walter de la Mare. Slowly, silently, now the moon walks the night in her silver shoon. This way and that she peers and sees silver fruit upon silver trees, One by one the casements catch her beams beneath the silvery thatch. Couched in his kennel like a log, with paws of silver sleeps the dog. From their shadowy coat the white breasts peep, of doves in a silver-feathered sleep. A harvest mouse goes scampering by, with silver claws and silver eye. And moveless fish in the water gleam, by silver reeds in a silver stream.
Yeah, beautiful poem. There's so many beautiful images there that resonate. It's a very kind of a romantic image, isn't it?
It is.
Of the full moon and such like.
Yeah.
That's true.
It is very, very pretty, I think. Lends itself.
I did have a heart attack when you said, from their shadowy coat, the white breasts peep. I was wondering what was going to come next. And I was very relieved when you said of doves. Yes, that's very good.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. But it's so interesting because in my kind of preparation and research, I was not looking for literature about the moon.
There we go. See how cultures can be so different.
But I see from that just how the light of the moon is so beautiful and so distinct from the light of the sun, which I wouldn't describe as beautiful at all. I'd say the light of the moon reflecting off things like water
is gorgeous,
or jewelry
isn't it?
or glass or whatever is beautiful, but it can be an unbearable light.
The
so
sun,
to speak.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. Have you heard ever people describe people as a sunny personality?
Yes.
Or a light personality?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how in the imagery we use in our everyday life, light and dark, we use it all the time. You know, I'm heading for the light, or it's been a dark time.
Yeah.
Or, there's a shadow hanging over me.
Yeah.
Somebody's bringing a sparkle or sunshine into my life. Yeah, they have cast a large cloud.
Exactly.
That's
true.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is. But also, sometimes they use it to describe people. I once met a person, she was a physiotherapist, and she was like, you have such a light personality. And I really didn't know what that meant. But so that made me actually look that up. And in psychology, there's something called the light triad, which basically describes a certain kind of person that has 3 traits. So these 3 traits are faith in humanity, an overall tendency to see the best in people and believe that most people are basically good.
Yeah.
Humanism, a belief in the inherent dignity and worth of other humans.
Yeah.
And Kantism, treating people as ends unto themselves rather than unwitting pawns.
So what that's saying then is that if you have those personality traits yourself, you might be described as a light.
Exactly. You have the light triad in you. Triad. Yeah, exactly. And so there's a scale on which they, psychologists, I guess, measure how light your personality is. And that is intellectual curiosity, attachment to others, tolerance towards others, having a low need to exert power over others, humility and agreeability.
Okay.
So these are the things.
Some self-ranking.
Let's do that.
So are you scoring high on the light triad scale?
I would say so. I
think you score highly on all of those.
I think so.
So I'm going to describe you as a light person.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that would be the same with you as well. I really do think so.
Agreeability, not always.
That's not true.
Humility, not always.
There.
Having a low need to exert power over others, not sure about that.
I've never seen
Tolerance
you try
towards
it.
others,
not sure. There we might.
I think I'm attachment to others. I'm scoring quite low.
No, you're not.
I think I'm quite dark.
No, I think
shadowy figure.
That's not true, because if I read to you the dark triad, actually.
Yeah.
So the dark triad would have the 3 traits: narcissism.
Oh, yes.
Machiavellianism, which is the opposite of Kantism, and psychopathy.
Well, I have been described by certain other people with at least one of those 3 phrases, and maybe 2. Yeah.
I'm trying to think which ones not narcissist.
Yeah, no, I have been described as a narcissist, and I have been described as Machiavellian.
Okay, not a psychopath.
Not a psychopath. Let's just get that clear. Not a psychopath.
Okay.
Yet. Not yet, anyway.
Well, I find that really wrong. Sorry.
I think you can tell yourself, can't you? Depending on how you feel when you get out of the bed. You feel light.
Yeah.
Because alongside your character, you feel light physically.
Yeah.
You know, when you've really got your mojo and you've got a spring in your step.
Yeah.
And you're feeling great and you feel good about others and you're curious and you're...
Light as a feather.
Light as a feather,
yeah,
indeed.
Exactly.
Interesting, the word light is light.
It means physically and also in terms of...
Yeah. Light as a feather. Yeah, interesting that they both go together. And some days you feel heavy.
And you feel like there's a cloud hanging over you.
You do, you feel that.
Yeah.
And you think of light as being a positive thing and darkness as being a negative thing.
Yeah. But it's really interesting because like there's something else when it comes to light, which is a bit kind of, what's the word? Esoteric.
Yeah.
You know how people are just like, oh, I can see your aura, I can see the light around you and things like that. I don't dabble in that world, but I can also see that some people are like the sun. People just gravitate towards them. You know, you feel like, okay, people enjoy being with those people. And there are some people who just, you know, you don't necessarily hate them or not dislike them. You just don't want to be around them.
Yeah, they don't have that.
And they have that
kind of
darkness to them, which is interesting.
That idea of having an aura, because people do, you know, they're such a nice, but they have an aura about them. Yeah. Something special. If you go to religious imagery, of course, all the pious saintly figures have an aura. They all have this light around their head, like a halo or whatever you might, the halo effect. Yeah. So we're using light in that kind of imagery to somehow imply that it's a good person, it's a holy person, it's a nice person. Yeah.
So what did you find in the Bible about light?
Well, I'm sure that light is used in a similar way in all religions. So it'll be interesting to see what you found. But light in the Bible is used
everywhere.
It is an image throughout the Bible, Old and New Testament, and it symbolizes. So the main theme is light is used to symbolize God, or your faith, or the idea of being holy. So you should be aiming for the light, or you should be attracted by the light, or as a Christian, the whole message of the Bible is calling you to walk in the light and to be a light for other people. Absolutely. So what we talked about as a person being a light, the Bible message is you should head for the light yourself and be a light for others to follow. So it's quite a nice image. So there's quite a few Bible verses. I won't give you all of them, but just as an example. So this is Matthew, people living in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. Wow. So this is the awakening of Christian faith, basically. And then that's being called to walk in the light. And then to be a light for others, again in Matthew, in the following verse, it says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Nice. And Jesus often referred to himself, like in John, he says, while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So the Christ figure is the guidance, like the light, like a lighthouse. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Cool. So that's really cool. I'm sure it's used in a number of other ways, but for me, those are the two main themes. It's an imagery of God, of Jesus, but it is what you should aim to be. Also to other people. To be there for other people, to help them and guide them. Is that the same in the Quran? The interesting thing about the Quran is that Allah has many names. One of them is light. So Noor means light, and that's one of His names, An-Noor. And the interesting thing about Islam is that you are not allowed to paint a picture of Allah or imagine what He might look like, because He doesn't look like anything. In fact, He's not a he or a she. He's just
an entity of something. And it's usually displayed as just light. So if they make a movie about Muhammad's life, for example, then there's just light coming from somewhere, and it's either God or Muhammad. Both are not allowed to be depicted. And it's really interesting how, Allah is seen as just light and no picture, no gender, nothing. So that's...
But I quite like that. And in a way that resonates more for me than the idea of personifying.
Especially if you make him blonde with blue eyes.
Yeah.
If you make Jesus blonde...
Member of a boy band.
Like, come on, seriously. He came from the Middle East. There's no way he was blonde.
No way. No, he had long hair and a beard, and he clearly was
European.
American. Yeah. No, it's quite right.
Yeah. So I looked up how many times it was mentioned in the Quran, and it says, according to this resource, 63 times.
63.
But then there was...
And those references to Muhammad as...
mostly not Muhammad. So Muhammad is not as glorified as the God himself.
Yeah. Okay.
So, that's the difference. In Islam, Muhammad is just a messenger.
Okay.
And he is revered and everything, but the main thing that you worship, you follow, you hope for is God himself.
Yeah.
And then I found this nice verse that I like, describing Allah. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of his light is as if there were a niche, and within it a lamp, the lamp enclosed in glass, the glass, as it were, a brilliant star, lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow forth of itself, though no fire touched it. Light upon light, Allah guides whom he will to his light. Allah sets forth parables for men, and Allah is the knower of all things.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because if you were to take that verse and put it in the Bible and change the word Allah for God,
it would fit.
It would fit absolutely,
exactly,
wouldn't it?
You know what's interesting is that when I mention the word Allah, sometimes I feel really strange because of how it's being misused.
Yeah.
You know, like just at the weekend there was this stabbing. And it was done in the name of Allah. And I am sure God has nothing to do with any of these things. No religion.
Yeah.
And it just breaks my heart how it's become almost a dirty word, which is really, really sad.
Well, especially when it's in a primarily sort of Christian context.
Yeah.
So in a Christian country...
Yeah, of course.
If somebody says, in the name of Allah, then that's like, it's clearly something
terrorist
is about to happen. Whereas people don't even blink when it says, oh God.
Yeah.
The blasphemy of that phrase doesn't seem to be a problem for anybody. And, we're not all looking at people and thinking they're a terrorist because they've used God's name. I think it's just, I find it's an really
easy
cultural target.
Yeah, it's really sad because, and you can only blame people who are, the propaganda and how you're employing these people to do horrible things to help you go to power while using the name of Allah to do these things. It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the imagery in that verse of the light in a glass and so
and the light glowing on its own without being touched by fire, which is really brilliant.
Must have cheap electricity bills. I mean, are you one of those people in your home have got lots of candles?
Yes.
And lots of candle holders
yes.
and little lanterns and stuff like that? And do you do that sort of ritual that you might relax for the evening and there's no electric lights?
Yes.
And you sit by candlelight?
Yes.
I'm really interested in that because there is something really nice about sitting in candlelight.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, hundreds of years ago, that's what you did.
Yeah.
But now we have beautiful electric lights, and we can see as well as we can during the day.
Yeah.
But there's something really nice about that.
I think it helps you wind down, for the end of the day. And actually, that's something that's recommended. Like they recommend before you go to bed, don't look at your phone, don't look at your laptop, anything, because all of that blue light that is being emitted is really bad for you. And they say dim the lights, make sure that you don't have any bright lights around you. So that kind of tells your body that, okay, we're winding down and we're going to go to bed soon. So I think there's something really relaxing about it.
I think there's also just the beautiful
glow.
Flickering effect. The fact that it isn't constant light. It's a little bit like watching a fire.
Yeah. And we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Watching a fire is very soothing.
I could sit outside around a bonfire or a fire and sit and watch it. It's better than television, isn't it? It changes all the time, and you kind of, it's mesmerizing.
It's definitely meditative. You know, it's something that is, you're mindful. You're not thinking of many things. You're just looking at this one fire and you're watching it burn, and you're listening to the crackling of the wood. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Although
like it a lot.
I'm really amazed that you can sit for a long time and just watch the fire. I couldn't.
Well, it's better than having to do anything, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
Especially if I've got a beer in my hand. It's amazing how long I can sit in front of a fire. Shakespeare.
Yes.
We talk about shaky.
Of course.
Shakespeare. I did a little bit of research about Shakespeare, and of course, there are loads and loads of references to light and darkness. So I decided to hone in on just one play. So we talked about Romeo and Juliet before, and specific use of imagery by Shakespeare, but light and darkness plays quite a major role in the imagery that Shakespeare uses for the characters of Romeo and Juliet. So the theme of light is used throughout the play as a symbol of the natural beauty of young love. And so Romeo and Juliet refer to each other consistently as light in a surrounding darkness. Romeo describes Juliet as being like the sun, brighter than a torch, a jewel sparkling in the night, and a bright angel amongst dark clouds. Even when she's lying apparently dead in the tomb, he says, her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light.
Oh, wow.
And then Juliet describes Romeo as day in night and whiter than snow upon a raven's back. So this contrast of light and dark is used throughout by Shakespeare. So really interesting as a device. And light is also heavily connected to the theme of time, since light was also a convenient way for Shakespeare. You know, he didn't say, at 2:37 Romeo went round. But as we were talking about before, in those days, expressing the passage of time would be done through descriptions of the sun or the moon and the stars. So that is also in there as well. So beautiful. Very interesting.
It's really interesting that 16-year-olds can talk like that. If you think about it.
Yes.
It's very poetic.
Yes.
Yeah. There's one thing with light that I would really, really love to see one day. Can you guess what it is?
One thing with light that you'd really like to see. The new light shade I bought from IKEA.
I thought you were going to say like fireworks in New York or something.
Yeah, we could get on to talk about fireworks. But some of them are great, great firework displays. I'm a big fan of lightning as well.
Me too.
Although
I love watching a storm.
I've got a good lightning story to tell you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Twice?
But anyway, have I told you before?
No.
So, but it's not lightning and it's not fireworks.
No.
So, is it natural or
yes.
is it? Yeah. Have you seen this phenomenon?
Not in person.
Okay, you have to put me out of my misery.
It's the Northern Lights.
The Northern Lights.
Yeah, the Aurora Borealis. And so I looked up how it works, and it's like, I think most people know that there is, I don't know. I don't want to make a mistake here with science, but it's just...
There may be scientists listening. We apologise.
It's just, I don't know. What's the word? Something from the sun, and they collapse with the magnetic field of the Earth, and then they go around the Earth somehow.
And you have this amazing collection of colours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's actually
beautiful.
Do you know which one is the most common one? Which colour is the most common one in the Aurora Borealis?
I'm going to guess blue.
Green.
Green
is the most common one. When you get like blue and pink and stuff, then that's really rare and really nice. Yeah. So I would love to do that. Actually, if one of my ex-students is listening, he's doing his pilot license. Yeah. And he said to me, Miss Shar, one day I'm going to take you in the cockpit to go through the sky and watch the Aurora Borealis from the cockpit.
Gosh.
And I am holding him to that, and I have witnesses.
I mean, there are quite a large number of parts of the world where you can see this.
Exactly.
And, even in the United Kingdom.
In the United Kingdom.
people in Scotland see
really?
the Northern Lights. Or
cool. For me, I would like to see it in Scandinavia somewhere, maybe Finland or something.
Because I think you have the quality of the air as well there to go with it, which must be really good.
Yeah, but I'll take it anywhere in the world. I'm not very picky. So I was like wondering what people thought when they saw this long ago, you know, how they could explain it to themselves, because we know like all of these myths come from the need for human beings to explain some phenomena. And so there's a lot of them, but I'm only going to read a few to you. And it's really interesting because the Inuits, there are many different groups of Inuits, and they all saw it differently, which is interesting because, like, I thought
because we tend to just think of
they're all
one culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So number one, many Inuit, when they witnessed the light, they believed they were spirits of the dead playing a game with a walrus skull as the ball.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That's weird. The thing is, if you were to see the Northern Lights, it's not the first thing that comes to my
they thought they were just the gods or the spirits playing football with a walrus skull.
That's great.
Another one that I really liked was a group of Inuit. Is the Inuit of Hudson Bay dreaded the lights, believing they were the lanterns of demons.
Oh, wow.
Pursuing lost souls.
Gosh.
So that's very eerie. And actually, a lot of the people that I read about, they used to stay indoors when this happened, which is so sad.
Yeah,
it's
don't look at this beautiful thing because it's demons.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with black cats.
No,
just checking.
Or their bottoms.
Don't let the cat in. Yeah.
Okay, the next one is in Finland. A mystical fox was thought to have created the aurora by its bushy tail, spraying snow and throwing sparks into the sky. How cool is that?
Wow, that is cool.
Yes, that cute fox.
Cool.
The next one, in perhaps the best oxymoron of the British folklore, this Scottish legend says they call them merry dancers engaged in bloody battle.
Gosh.
So this is really hilarious because it's like merry dancers
killing each other.
Exactly.
Yes. That's very Scottish. Yeah.
The next one is Native Americans of the Great Plains. They thought that the light display came from northern tribes cooking their dead enemies in huge pots over blazing fires.
Gosh.
I can imagine somebody from that area coming and telling them the story. You know, you better behave. This is what we do.
We cook you in a huge pot.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then the Inuit of Point Barrow in Alaska believed the aurora was evil. They carried knives to protect themselves from it.
I'm not sure a knife is really going to help you.
Yeah, but it gives you comfort, doesn't it? And then these are my two favorite. In Norse mythology, the lights were the spears, armor, and helmets of the warrior women known as the Valkyries.
Yeah.
They rode on horseback, leading fallen soldiers to their final resting place at Valhalla.
Yeah.
Isn't that sweet?
It's fantastic. And that whole Norse mythology, all those Norse gods, it's really exciting stuff, isn't it?
It is.
And I also like the fact that women played such a
That's what I was going to say.
big part in Norse mythology. Fantastic.
And then my absolute favorite is indigenous Greenlanders believed that the lights were dancing spirits of children who had died at birth.
Oh, that's nice.
It's so sweet, you know,
That's
like it
nice.
gives the mother such comfort to know, okay, that's my child up there and giving us light, and it's really pretty.
It'd be very confusing if you had some sort of international conference.
Yeah.
And you've got a group of people standing there and somebody says, come outside and see the dancing spirits of children. No,
where's my knife?
It's the devil. No, they're warrior women. No, it's a walrus skull they're playing football with. It could be very confusing to make sense of it.
Yeah, that would be actually really fun to watch. Yeah. So
beautiful.
Tell me the story about lightning.
Oh, so when I used to be absolutely petrified of lightning because something happened to me when I was a small boy. So I was living in, I'd been to the supermarket. Sorry if this is a long story. I went to the supermarket with my mom and she always bought me what was called a lucky bag.
Okay.
Didn't turn out to be that lucky. And in my lucky bag, apart from some sweets, was a little toy. Yeah. It was like a helicopter thing. You pull the string and this little thing whizzed off the top of a handle.
Oh, yeah.
A little plastic toy.
I've seen those. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Anyway, she told me to go and play out. That's a northern phrase. Go and play out.
Don't let me see you until night.
So I walked out and there was that thundery feeling in the
air.
Yeah, and there was lightning flashing. But of course I wanted to come in, but my mom said, play out. So I was a little bit scared already, being only a small boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, lightning struck the telegraph cables down at the bottom of our road.
Okay.
And this big fireball came up the road, up the telegraph wires, like a big ball of fire.
Seriously, you saw that?
This is serious. And the house next door to us, the guy was a real hi-fi buff. For those who don't know what hi-fi is, hi-fi, he had, his record deck and his
big
cassette deck and
amplifiers,
big amplifier. And he had a massive radio what's it called, thing on his roof?
Antenna.
Antenna. Because he used to listen to shortwave radio or something like that. And this big fireball decided it wanted to earth itself, so it jumped across from the telegraph wire onto the top of this roof and earthed itself on the house next door.
Oh my goodness.
And it bounced around the house next door, and wires came out of the ground, all the windows smashed.
What?
The window of my bedroom smashed.
Really?
And it all corresponded, this big corresponded to me pulling the string on this helicopter. And I was convinced it was me.
You triggered it.
I'd done it. So there's this big noise and flashing and cables come flying out of the ground and I knock on the door. Mom, I've just did this. Just to add to the story. So the guy next door, his name was Brian.
Yeah.
And he, my mom managed to phone. He worked at the library in town. And my mom phoned and said, Brian, you've got to come home. Because his wife was there and they had a baby.
Oh, my goodness.
And the baby was sitting in a pram in the garage. And this big fireball had been through the house. And there were big black blotches all over the wall where it had bounced. It was really horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. He came running back and he comes out of his car and he runs and says, is she all right? Is she all right? And he was referring to his hi-fi.
Oh,
not
to his wife, no.
The first thing he did was he went inside the house to see whether his hi-fi was still okay.
You're not serious.
That's what I remember. It might have just been the story being slightly twisted,
exaggerated.
But no, he was very concerned about.
Oh my goodness.
And my mum had to sort of say to him,
how about check on your wife first?
They're sitting inside our house having a cup of tea. Yeah, so...
This is the best story ever.
Yeah.
And that you actually saw that
I saw it, and so I was absolutely petrified of lightning.
Oh, my goodness.
And I remember 1970 World Cup.
Yeah?
I'm a big football fan. So I was 6. I was 6 years old, just giving my age away.
Yeah.
And I remember England were playing Germany in the 1970 World Cup, and it started thundering outside and lightning outside. And I was so scared... I switched the television off and I took all the plugs out of every point because I'd seen all these cables being ripped and I'd seen in the house where in all the electric points it was all black and and I was so scared of it. And I didn't really get over it until I was probably at 12 or 13.
Okay.
And I remember an auntie came and it was lightning.
Yeah.
And she made me stand at the window.
Okay. To face your fear.
To face my fear and to look at it. And to actually enjoy it.
That's nice.
And now I love it. And now I'm really excited by a really good lightning storm. And the kind of light you get, there's something special about it.
It's gorgeous.
It's not... It's got a really, really strange...
that flashlight light.
And then it just dies down. But the light is still in the air for a while.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely stunning. Like when I see this happening, I turn off whatever is on TV or music or anything, and I open the door. No matter how much rain. To listen and to watch. Turn off the lights and just watch it. Like it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Just the nature manifesting how strong it is. Yeah. I mean,
especially if it then supersedes a huge tropical rainstorm, which tends to happen in Germany.
Yeah, if you're sitting inside, it's absolutely
stunning.
When the weather
goes crazy, I love it. It's fantastic. Yeah. Gosh. What about...
Do you have any poetry for us?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got a few.
Okay.
I quite like the... I've got one poem here which... most of the poetry is people glorying in light. Mm. So either loving the sunlight or wanting to be led towards the light. And a lot of the poetry that I found was also a religious connotation. So... talking about the light, heading towards the light, either as being an imagery for death or the path towards goodness or something like that. But I liked this poem called A World of Light by Elizabeth Jennings, because this is more a person who does not like the light.
Okay, that's a good contrast.
And is talking about, not wanting to disappear from the darkness or having to face the light, if you like. So I'll read that one. And then you can tell me we'll talk about being nocturnal a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, when the dark withdrew, I suffered light and saw the candles heave beneath the wax. I watched the shadow of my old self dwindle as softly on my recollection stole a mood the senses could not touch or damage, a sense of peace beyond the breathing word. Day dawdled at my elbow. It was night within. I saw my hands, their soft dark backs keeping me from the noise outside. The candle seemed snuffed into a deep and silent pool. It drew no shadow round my constant image, for in a dazzling dark my spirit stirred. But still I questioned it. My inward sight still knew the senses and the senses' tracks. I felt my flesh and clothes, a robbing sandal, and distant voices wishing to console. My mind was keen to understand and rummage to find assurances in the sounds I heard. Then senses ceased, and thoughts were driven quite away, no act of mine. I could relax and feel a fire no earnest prayer can kindle. All parts of peace dissolved into a whole, and like a bright thing, proud in its new plumage, my mind was keen as an attentive bird. Yes, fire, light, air, birds, wax, the sun's own height I draw from now, but every image breaks. Only a child's simplicity can handle such moments when the hottest fire feels cool, and every breath is like a sudden homage to peace that penetrates and is not feared.
Wow.
So this idea of almost being dragged into daytime into into light, into the noise and the bluster and the bright lights and of the normal day, whereas for you, you're more comfortable just with the softness of the touch and the silence of the darkness and the candles that we talked about before. And I could kind of see that we always assume people want
light, exactly.
Light, but actually, I mean, could you imagine a world where everything was back to front, where for you the normal state of play was darkness?
Yeah, no.
So dark was your light.
I don't know. I watched a series once. It was called The Killing, and I can totally recommend it. It's one of the best series ever. And it was, I think, in Seattle, and it was dark all the time.
Yeah.
And it was raining all the time. And for me, it was like it reached a point where it became really eerie. So I don't think I could be comfortable in something like this. But I guess it's all a matter of what you're used to. You know, if everybody is living in this, rainy state of being, then you just get used to it, and this becomes your normal.
I mean, I could imagine if you didn't have to sort of conform.
Yeah.
That you could have a life where you have your time during the night. I mean, if you think about if you don't like other people's company, and you don't like crowds, and you don't like noise, then what better time to be up and about doing your thing?
Exactly.
So you're a writer.
Exactly.
Why if you're writing a book, why not get up when everybody else is going to bed and you have this time of
serenity,
like that poem says, that calmness, no noise outside, consistent light, and you can write, you can absorb yourself in what you're doing.
Just be with yourself and with your thoughts. And I think for me, a balance is very important. Like just saying I shun the world and I sit inside and I am by myself. I'm like a bat, and it's too much. I think that would be very emo for me.
Yeah.
But also somebody who always needs to be in the noise and the light and the hustle and bustle and doesn't know how to sit still and enjoy the stillness and the light and, the light of a candle or a crackling of a fire is also too much and unhealthy. So I think, every now and then you have to...
So somewhere in the middle. I think, I think we need a balance, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, there are nocturnal creatures, and they seem to get on all right. Imagine that. You don't see a bat until
exactly dark.
Dusk. It's just going dark.
Yeah.
A badger or a fox, they don't come out until it's dark.
Yeah.
Their life is our life
when it starts.
Back to front.
Exactly.
Do
Interesting.
you know what the opposite of being nocturnal is?
No.
A little word test.
No.
You are an English teacher. You should know this.
Sorry.
No, I didn't know what it was.
Did you know it? No.
No, I didn't. It's diurnal.
Diurnal?
Diurnal.
Oh, okay.
Is the opposite of nocturnal.
It's somebody who only wants to, is alive and active during the day.
Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah. So we are diurnal.
Yeah.
But it's only used really in the context of
animals?
Of animals and biology.
Yeah.
Nocturnal animals, diurnal
exactly.
animals.
Oh, okay.
But that's the technical term.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you think about it, my favorite pieces of music, actually, are the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven and the Nocturnes by Chopin. These are my two favorites. So
as opposed to, I really like Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles.
I listened to it
Walking on
this morning.
Sunshine.
Walking on Sunshine.
There you go.
I got a pocket full of sunshine.
A pocket full of sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. We could play a game, couldn't we? Just go on for a long time. We won't do it because it'll bore the listeners, but... there are so many songs that refer to
night,
the sun,
and light,
or the moon, or to light,
stars,
or to dark.
Yeah, we can do that. It's really funny because I'm a person who's active during the day, but I really do enjoy these dark, sad, kind of moody night things. Interesting.
It's balancing because
maybe that's my balance. Yeah,
I don't like the depth of winter when the days are very short.
Yeah.
And I do have a little bit of understanding of that seasonal affective disorder.
The sad.
Where I live in Ulm is well known for its dense winter fogs that can go on for months.
Oh, no.
And I do remember one year where it just seemed to be foggy and kind of dark for about 3 months. And I really did get me down. I was desperate for some sunlight on my back. Yeah. Desperate for it. I so wanted to get away.
Maybe you should invest in one of those lamps, the sunlight lamps. Apparently you can, they're maybe infrared, I think, is very, very good for you. Yeah.
Why are humans attracted towards the light then? Aside from being naturally diurnal creatures, which kind of means by default that's what we do.
It's in our biology, except for teenagers. Teenagers do not like the light. They like to be up at night and especially they need goths. To sleep in. Exactly, especially goths, emos, No, but all teenagers, it's actually proven by science that they should start the day later because they just don't know how to wake up early in the morning.
And they need more. They need more time to sleep as well.
Exactly.
I can't understand people who, especially if you've got a job or whatever, but don't go to bed until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
I know. And it's how do you... you're living amongst us and everything happens during the day. I don't know how you can do that.
So I did a bit of research.
Yes.
Just seeing if there was any science about humans' attraction to light. So, the default is it's what we're... biologically, we are that kind of animal is what we are.
We're wired like that.
And for our protection... we were awake during the day because we could see.
Exactly.
We could see what any threat to us was, and when it was dark, we could hide away and sleep. But there are other reasons combining biology and evolutionary factors. So first is something called phototropism. This is a natural tendency of living things to move or grow towards the light. So same with plants. But for humans, this instinct, being attracted to light, could help humans find food, water, and safer environments.
It's called
Phototropism.
Tropism, okay.
Yeah. Second, vision and clarity. Of course, light makes it easier to see things. Our eyes are designed to function best in well-lit conditions, just the way that the optic nerve works. So we instinctively look towards light to see objects and details more clearly. So by default, we're attracted towards light. Thirdly, psychological attraction. Light can evoke positive feelings and emotions. So we're drawn towards the light because it makes us psychologically feel better.
Happier, yeah.
Yeah, bright environments are often associated with safety, happiness, warmth. So we're more likely to be drawn to them. Fourth, social and cultural factors make light attractive, because in many cultures, light is a symbol of something. So that we've talked about it in the context of religion, but also knowledge, enlightenment.
Enlightenment, exactly.
Hope is an image of light. This symbolism can influence our behavior, leading people to gravitate towards light sources. And then finally, just the biology, the human eye has a reflexive response to bright light. It constricts the pupils to protect the retina. This leads individuals to look towards light sources out of instinct.
Interesting.
So quite interesting. A new word, phototropism there.
Yeah, there we go. I also thought of something while you were reading that. I think also one of the reasons why we enjoy the day or enjoy the sunlight is because it's like a new beginning. It's hope. Something is starting. It's a new chance, if you will. It's like, I always feel like if your day is going so badly and, things are not going so well and a lot of bad things happened, you can always say, okay, tomorrow, when the sun comes up again, it's a new start.
The dawning of a new day.
Exactly. There's a new chance, Yeah. I think that also is something.
Yeah. I think light is, we associate hope. And like you say, creation,
exactly,
new start,
Genesis.
But we also associate it with death, don't you think?
Do you mean like what's it, near death?
Yeah. Have you ever had a near death experience? And
no.
So one thing about near death experiences, surveys or studies that have been done on people who've had these near-death experiences, one common feature of all of them is this tendency towards heading towards a very
like a tunnel where there's
bright light.
Yeah.
So broad commonalities. Firstly, the patient becomes pain-free at the point of this near-death experience.
Yeah.
So they're not in pain. Often they detach from their own body and float about or fly off into space, have a sort of out-of-body experiences. Often they might include meeting a loved one, living or dead, or some sort of spiritual being, and absolutely consistent throughout them, seeing a bright light at the end of a tunnel.
Yeah.
And heading off towards that light only to turn back.
Wow. And that's when they don't die in the end.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I've heard, actually, I listened to a whole podcast about this. Like there's a professor who studies this specifically. Yeah. And he was just saying about it's really not in their heads. It's really what they see. It really happens. They turn around and then they come back to life.
There are some... there are many theories. Obviously this isn't something you can study in a scientific way because you can't set up a control group and another group, and people are only going to talk to you about it after the event. So it's like asking people to report on their dreams.
Yeah, it's not going to be accurate.
Yeah, because you're not setting them up beforehand. Somebody has this near-death experience and you ask them sometime afterwards, it's going to be a very distorted view. But there are a number of different theories. There's one explanation is that reduced blood flow to the visual periphery of your retina means you lose vision there first. So the light becomes much more focused, and that's where the sort of tunnel vision comes from. And maybe in the same way as when you have dreams in sleep, as you're losing sort of consciousness, you are quite likely to meet loved ones or to have people in that context. And only the people who happen to meet a loved one or an angel are likely to report on it. So that means everybody who's had a near-death experience
will go and make a big deal about it.
Because it follows the characteristics of what they think a near-death experience is. But all those who didn't won't. So it's not very scientific. But interesting. I don't want to have a near-death experience.
Yeah, it would be a bit eerie. I don't know. It depends on who I meet there.
Oh, that's true.
That would make a huge difference, I think.
Yeah.
I'm thinking depending on how much time we have. Actually, you taught me a new word. Let me teach you a new word.
Yes, please. Yeah.
What is the meaning of selenophobia?
Say again?
Selenophobia.
Not liking Celine Dion?
Yes. Is that... Selena Gomez.
Oh, Selena Gomez. I like her.
It's not liking, it's the phobia of the moonlight.
Really?
Which is exactly the opposite of what I have. It's loving the moonlight.
Yeah.
This one is easy. Astrophobia.
The fear of the stars, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Phobia of the stars, exactly. Yeah. So I found those to be interesting.
Yeah.
But I wanted to tell you a little bit about...
Why would you be scared of the stars?
I don't know. Maybe it has to do with a bad experience you've had.
I mean, it's a long way away.
Exactly. It cannot do anything to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a bit of a sun phobia, actually. I avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
So I was looking at myths, again, back to the idea of how we explain things when we don't have enough science to explain things. So before we knew about the stars and the sun and all of that.
Yeah.
So this is a Japanese myth. So the goddess of light in Japan is called Amaterasu.
I thought that was a dessert in an Italian restaurant.
Amaterasu. And she is the great divinity illuminating heaven. Wow. So she's the sun goddess, and apparently the imperial family claim that they descend from that goddess, the sun goddess.
Yeah.
She was born from the left eye of her father, Izanagi, from his left eye.
Yeah.
Who bestowed upon her a necklace of jewels and placed her in charge of Takamagahara. I'm so proud of myself for saying that.
I'm really impressed,
go.
And I'm thinking to myself, are you sure you know what you're doing here? But very good, yeah. Takamaka, I can't even say it. Mm-hmm.
The abode of all the kami. One of her brothers, the storm god, Susanu, was sent to rule the seaplane. Before going, Susanu went to take leave of his sister. As an act of good faith, now this is interesting, they produced children together.
Yeah, good faith. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But look how. She, by chewing the spitting out pieces of the sword he gave her.
Okay.
Are you not going to make a joke about the sword?
My blade. I put it back in the sheath.
Oh my God. And he, by doing the same with her jewels.
So to speak. At least it was her jewels and not his. This isn't a kind of sexual practice that I've ever tried. I must get myself some jewels.
Yeah, so Susanu then began to behave very rudely.
Yeah.
He broke down the divisions in the rice fields, defiled his sister's dwelling place, and finally threw a flayed horse into her weaving hall.
Well, you would do if you were annoyed, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I do all the time.
Yeah.
Indignant, Amaterasu withdrew in protest into a cave. The darkness fell upon the world.
Oh, gosh.
Then the other 800...
So I'm not understanding here. So they, as an act of good faith, they decided to have children. But it all went badly wrong and they had an argument.
Yeah.
Do you think...
And he really offended her and he did all of these horrible things.
Why?
And then, who knows?
Is that because he chewed and spat out her jewels?
No, that was how he produced children with her, I think. But let's see. I don't know. Maybe she didn't make him
carry
a
on
good
with the story. It might be revealed. Yeah.
That would be interesting. Yeah, the other 800 myriads of gods conferred on how to lure the sun goddess out because she lunged them into darkness, basically. They collected cocks.
Stop.
Who's crowing.
This story is getting mighty weird.
Whose crowing precedes the dawn, and hung a mirror and jewels on a sakaki tree in front of her cave. The goddess then, I can't say his name, Amezuzum, began a dance on an upturned tub, partially distorting herself, which so delighted the assembled gods that they roared with laughter.
Right.
Amaterasu then became curious how the gods could make merry while the world was plunged into darkness, and was told that outside the cave there was a deity more illustrious than she. She peeped out, saw her reflection in the mirror, heard the cocks crow, and was thus drawn out from the cave. The kami then quickly threw a shimenava, or sacred rope of rice straw, before the entrance to prevent her return to hiding. Gosh. And that's how we are blessed with some sunlight today.
Do you know what?
What?
I don't think it's true.
No?
No.
It seems very likely to me.
No.
How do you think we are blessed with sunlight?
Well, it's certainly nothing to do with chewing and spitting out pieces of sword and
jewels.
Doing the same with jewels. Yeah, but what a bizarre story.
It is a very bizarre story.
With. I mean,
exactly.
It would
that's
make
why
a great film.
It would, and that's why I decided I had to share it with you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It explains a lot. Yeah, but this bizarre story.
Maybe that's why the Japanese have such amazing like mangas and all of these amazing things that you would think like who in their right mind thought this story up.
Yeah.
So it comes from their heritage.
I think it's really interesting, depending on which cultural background we're talking about, if we had to explain where the sun comes from.
Yeah, I think every country, every culture has something to explain it.
I mean, think about what we're talking about with the Norse cultures.
Yeah.
Those again, or if you think about Roman times, or the Greeks.
Yeah.
Well, they all had a story, didn't they, around that?
So that would be fascinating to know all of them.
Gosh.
So I have one last poem to finish with, but if you have a poem to go ahead, to go.
Well, we'll do a swap. So you give me a poem that you want to read, and then I'll do one back, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of nice writing about light. It would be a shame not to do some.
Is slightly long, and it's really, really interesting because yes, it talks about the moon, but it's actually talking about something a little bit deeper, and we'll talk about it then after.
Yeah.
But it's written by Nizar Qabbani. Nizar Qabbani is the single most famous, successful poet in Syria, and some people might argue in the Middle East.
Male or female?
Male.
Right.
So he was actually, I think he was a diplomat. He was sent by Syria to London or something. And then but he's quite a liberal and he was against the regime. And so he became, he was exiled basically.
So approximately when would this poem have been
I would say maybe 1960, 70, something like that. So it's relatively modern. So it's called Bread, Hashish and Moon by Nizar Qabbani. When the moon is born in the east and the white rooftops drift asleep under the heaped up light, people leave their shops and march forth in groups to meet the moon, carrying bread and a radio to the mountaintops. And their narcotics. There they buy and sell fantasies and images and die as the moon comes to life. What does that luminous disk do to my homeland? The land of the prophets, the land of the simple, the chewers of tobacco, the dealers in drug. What does the moon do to us, that we squander our valor and live only to beg from heaven? What has the heaven for the lazy and the weak? When the moon comes to life, they are changed to corpses and shake the tombs of the saints, hoping to be granted some rice, some children. They spread out their fine and elegant rugs and console themselves with an opium we call fate and destiny. In my land, the land of the simple, what weakness and decay lay hold of us when the light streams forth? Rugs, thousands of baskets, glasses of tea, and children swarm over the hills. In my land, where the simple weep and live in the light they cannot perceive. In my land, where people live without eyes, and pray and fornicate, and live in resignation, as they always have, calling on the crescent moon, O crescent moon, O suspended god of marble, O unbelievable object, always you have been for the East, for us, a cluster of diamonds, for the millions whose senses are numbed. On those Eastern nights, when the moon waxes full, the East divests itself of all honor and vigor. The millions who go barefoot, who believe in 4 wives and the day of judgment. The millions who encounter bread only in their dreams, who spend the night in houses built of coughs, who have never set eyes on medicine, fall down like corpses beneath the light. In my land, where the stupid weep and die weeping whenever the crescent moon appears and their tears increase. whenever some wretched lute moves them, or the song to night. In my land, in the land of the simple, where we slowly chew on our unending songs, a form of consumption destroying the East, our East chewing on its history, its lethargic dreams, its empty legends, our East that sees the sum of all heroism in picaresque Abu Zayd al-Hilali.
Wow. Gosh. What does that last line mean?
Abu Zayd al-Hilali. Abu Zayd al-Hilali was a poet of like a long time ago, and he used to write these very epic legend. Okay. And so picaresque is also about like heroic kind of, but not so respectable heroes. Mm-hmm. And so he's just talking there about all of the big talk that we talk that means absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Now, perhaps you can help me out, because this amazing poem, my understanding from listening to it is that it's a really negative poem about the state of the nation, right?
Yeah, yes, that's exactly what it is. And so he's talking here about like oppression.
Yeah.
And also saying about it's the land of the stupid, the land of the simple, chewing on the history, like looking at their past glory, and it's the land of the prophets.
As if it was a narcotic or a tobacco or...
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not really drugs that he's talking about, the opium they call destiny or fate. It's just like, because that's how they kind of... And that's something that I think...
Just an image for...
It's very endemic of the Middle East, where they're kind of like, it's meant to be, that's how it was written, that's my destiny, that's my fate. They just give in to it, because there's no way you can change your destiny in a country like Syria or the rest of the Middle East when you're living under an oppressive regime.
So why the link with the moon? So is the idea here that the moon comes out and all the people come out at that point, and under moonlight, that is when they display all the worst characteristics of the regime? Or
actually, that's a very interesting point. Why it's the moon that comes out of the east? Because you would think of the sun coming out of the east.
Yeah.
But it seems like maybe it's the land where the sun doesn't shine anymore. It's it's where it's night. Okay. It's always night. And also the romanticism of it. So it's like a bit of both. It's nighttime, but also the moon romanticizes everything, makes it seem maybe a little bit better, but it's where everything that he's talking about is disgusting. Really.
Yeah.
And I just love when he says, which one is just a second, there's this line about carrying bread and a radio to the mountaintops. Like the kind of like the simple thing, bread and a radio, because they want to do something. They want to listen to something. But so I read it the other day and I was like, this is heavy stuff, but it's so well written. Yeah,
it's beautiful. There's some, so skillfully uses. I love that, talking about people who believe in 4 wives and the day of judgment. Yeah. Who spend the night in houses built of coughs.
Yes.
That's such a great line, because if you've ever walked through, a rough area at night, or I mean, even sort of around where I live, there's a lot of flats and whatever. And in the dark of the night, if you walk the streets, you can always hear people coughing. And that's a beautiful line, because I so get that.
It is gorgeous, it's heartbreaking, poem. Yeah. So that was my poem about the moonlight, but not really about moonlight.
Because, like I say, You've again drawn upon the moon as the light that is of most relevance for you culturally. Yeah. It's just really interesting.
Yep.
Because I went with a really
sunny
British poet, Welsh poet actually, Dylan Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, this is about nighttime, but his poem is "Do not go gentle into that good night," which is a classic poem. And here, this is about not wanting to go into the night, but to stay in the light. And I think, night being the image of death.
End, really. The end,
which might be a good way to close the podcast. This. But it's a beautiful poem in its own right, because I think it, it links with the theme. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learn too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Wow.
Yes.
So powerful. So beautiful.
Yeah, basically it's mourning for the oncoming death of his father. But also telling all of us to fight.
Exactly, that rebellion against decay.
Rebel against decay, yeah. So that's possibly why I like it.
Yes, rebel, Tony.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of truth in the underlying theme of that you are somehow supposed to, as you get older, be, welcoming the
idea
the good
of
nights
death,
and the idea of death is something you've got to reconcile. But no,
that's okay.
Heck,
But I think we all have to reconcile with the idea of death, even when we're young. I think that's I accept that I might just get out of the school and just die,
Yeah.
But I think at the same time we should not lose the will to die, to live. Because some people just succumb to being old. Like I told you the story before when we did our episode on aging.
Yeah.
And I have an uncle who just literally decided that he was not going to be moving anymore. And he was bedridden for a long time. Yeah. And it was just basically a decision that he took. And he retired and he was like, what am I going to do with my life now? And then one day he was like, okay, I'm very sick. I sat down. His wife and his doctors knew that he could have, but then of course his muscles atrophied and he did become an invalid in the end. He just manifested that. Exactly. And so I think I love when I see an older person who embraces life, a friend of mine has an uncle who's in his mid-70s and he's not a skateboarder, an inliner.
Yeah.
He's a trainer. He teaches people how to do inline skating.
Yeah.
And he's in mid-70s.
That's fantastic.
That is fantastic. And that's how it should be, that we keep on, because you either live well or you die, but you don't live waiting to die and you start declining suddenly, slowly. It's terrible. That's a terrible way to live.
In a way, the light that we encounter during the daily routine of light and darkness should be an image of how our life goes.
Yeah.
You have the brightest part of the day, and then the light gradually declines, and then it becomes dark. And it's just a natural cycle.
Yeah.
You don't say at 7 o'clock when there's another 3 hours of lightness, I
I'm
want
ready
it
to
to
die.
be dark now.
Yeah, but I also if you think about it, it was like that, I think this morning or yesterday, I can't remember. It was rainy all morning, and then in the afternoon the sun came out and it started to look beautiful again and all of it. So we could get better rather than worse with age. There's always a chance that things can. So I don't like this idea of just decaying slowly. I hate that word. So something lighter to end with. Yeah,
I've got a few really nice quotes that I found light. Yes. A lot of people have come up with really enlightening quotes that I'd like to share, if that's okay.
Please.
2 by Carl Jung. Because
I love Jung.
Yeah.
Jung, actually.
Jung. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being.
Wow.
And then he also said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. I love both of those quotes.
I love that. And Jung is the one who really came up with this idea of the shadow. I think we talked about this. There's the shadow inside all of us. We have to bring it out to the light, otherwise it consumes us.
Yeah.
We have to not only take it out, but also embrace it. Maybe sometimes even make it work for us.
Yeah.
And indeed. I think that's what he means.
I like that. Martin Luther King Jr. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that.
Oh.
What a great quote. Edith Wharton. Mm-hmm. There are two ways of spreading light. To be the candle or to be the mirror that reflects it.
Like the moon.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
yes.
that's fantastic.
Perfect.
But also that's a little bit like in, the Christian image. You can either be the candle is God, or you are the light.
You are also a light for others. Yeah.
Too. And then a last one. I really love this. I don't know the writer, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I've not heard of her. But I like the image. People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. But when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is a light from within.
Oh, fantastic.
What a great quote that is.
Fantastic.
Because I love that image of stained glass window. If I go into a church and there's sun coming
That's the first
through,
thing you look for, yeah.
When there's no sun, you don't see that.
Yeah.
So I love that.
But if you shine a light from within, then it sparkles again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Isn't that a great quote?
Very good. Let's hold on to the light within, Tony.
Shall we? Shall we be like stained glass windows? This new school year coming?
Yes.
So we can think of this as like the dawn of a new school year.
Yeah.
Let's bring lightness.
Love it. Yeah. Great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Very good then.
I learned a lot. Thank you for sharing all that stuff to do with the moon, because culturally it's just not as big a deal or a bigger part of my cultural heritage. Yeah. Yes. Very good.
Then. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
We hope that you've enjoyed listening to the readings we chose for you today.
And that our musings have ignited your thoughts.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and those you think would enjoy it.
If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or any kind of feedback, please send us an email using the email in the show notes.
We'd love to hear from you with the words that make you.